Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of World of Business. Now, Zimbabwe will host the 44th SADC Summit of Heads of States and Government and will also assume chairmanship of SADC on the 17th of August next month. Prior to this, we've got the Industrialization Week, which will run from the 28th of July to the 2nd of August. The summit will be held right here in Mount Hamden. The World of Business team took the liberty to tour some of the projects that are being done by the government and the Second Republic in preparation for this summit. We also got an opportunity to speak to experts, young people, as well as leaders of the youths with regards to the SADC Summit. Let's hear more from this conversation. But first, we hear from the chairman of the War Veterans, Harare Province. As Zimbabwe is looking forward to host the 44th SADC Summit, where we're going to be hosting several heads of state and government. What is it that you'd like to say to the fellow Zimbabweans and also even to the heads of states as we look forward to this occasion?
What I would like to say as a Zimbabwean citizen is that it has been very fortunate for us to have been selected as a nation to host the SADC meeting in this country. As such, our president, His Excellency, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa, with his leadership, has responded positively. So far, a lot has happened, which has never ever happened in this country after all these years of independence. There's a lot of infrastructure development. We can talk of roads, buildings. Though we had a lot to do, they've done a magnificent job. If right now you go to the airport, I've been a traveler for years, but I think the airport, if you go there today, there are wonders. You can see the arrival points, more than one arrival points. There are a lot of improvements, arrivals, departures, kiosks, duty-free shops and the like, which is magnificent. If you go to the roads, I know we are having a lot of pressure when we have congestion and so on. I'm sure in the next few weeks, less than a month, it will be a thing of the past. So what I would expect us to do as citizens is to cooperate with our government, because our government is doing quite a lot. If you look at His Excellency, the President, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, he is almost everywhere to make sure things are happening, including at Mount Hamden, making sure everything is up to date before the SADC meeting. Again, I would like to challenge the Harare City Council. They've got a lot to do to create a conducive picture about our country. I think illegal vendors have got to be cleared. We don't even have to negotiate on that one. They've got to be cleared from the streets. We've noticed that a lot of people don't blame the city council when it is us who throw rubbish anyhow, anyway. We have got a role to play. Our First Lady has done wonders. She has done quite a lot of things to improve the sanitation in towns. So as such, it is our duty as citizens to see that we have also played a role. This is something that has come as an opportunity. It comes once in many years. And also, we are expecting our President, His Excellency, to take over the chairmanship. As such, we are creating a strong foundation. Any foundation which is weak will not stand a building. In this case, what I'm saying, we are creating a foundation that will make us a strong nation in the future. Let's support our leadership, our president, as citizens. Also, I would like to say, not forgetting, we are war veterans. War veterans have got to be exemplary on our deeds, what we do. We have got to be exemplary to make sure people respect cleanliness in towns. They respect the visitors. Visitors have got to feel that they are safe whenever they will be moving around. in this country, doesn't matter where, but they've got to feel that security. And also, I am encouraging our youth to be disciplined whenever they will be mixing with these visitors. The visitors have got to feel at home. I would like to say to all those people or visitors who will be coming to the Zimbabwe, they've got to feel at home. We are a homely, friendly nation.
That's it for the first segment, but stay tuned for the second segment where we get to speak to an economist, Mr. Malon Gwadu, who is going to tell us more about industrialization and trade facilitation. Where does Zimbabwe stand and how can we strategically position for the African Continental Free Trade Area? Stay tuned. As promised in the first segment, we are now joined by an economist, Mr. Malon Gwadu, who is going to tell us his sentiments pertaining to trade facilitation and industrialization. Where does Zimbabwe stand as a nation and how can we strategically position ourselves for the African Continental Free Trade Area? We start off the conversation. What are the key takeaways that we can note from the time before the SADC Summit actually happens up until after it happens? What is there to take note of?
I think it's important to note that this is a chance for us as a country to exhibit Zimbabwe as a brand across our sectors of performance. Infrastructure development has really increased, accelerated actually, to capacitate and propel the impending summit. We've seen roads being reconstructed and also complementary buildings being enhanced to build on the image of Zimbabwe. And also tourism is quite positioned enough to be visible by the visitors that are going to be visiting our country to showcase on the regional Indaba. And the discussions around the summit obviously are going to be nudged towards what Zimbabwe believes in and how it sees the vision for Africa as a large. The industrialization agenda as well as the trade facilitation in line with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement now that we're taking over the chairmanship of the SADC community.
Speak of us majoring more on brand Zimbabwe and creating a good image for our country, especially for the heads of states and governments that are coming into the country. What do you think, especially looking at the fact that Zimbabwe has been given the chance to assume chairmanship of the region?
I think it's a chance to exhibit our visionary leadership as a country and our strategic intent and our positioning as a country in terms of the industrial thrust that SADC should take, the trade facilitation agreements which we ought to take and steer the SADC community in a way that unlocks our economic capabilities. Fundamentally, we are a commodities and minerals based and an agricultural sector based economies, to mention a few. So with the industrialization agenda being key as well as other aspects, it's equally important for Zimbabwe to exhibit its talent and its skills in terms of nudging and propelling the SADC community to be able to unlock its capabilities going forward.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of opportunities that Zimbabwe can actually take advantage of, what do you think are some of the opportunities that are available, readily available for us to showcase, especially looking at the fact that we want to try and be competitive enough for the Continental Free Trade Area? What opportunities can we take advantage of? Let's start off with the industrialization week.
Well, I think the key takeaway is the tourism sector. We're going to be having visitors, very highly delegation diplomats visiting our country. It's a chance for them to really exhibit our tourism capacity as a country, as well as being able to facilitate any further engagements beyond the summit. And also the industrialization thrust, in line with how we as a country have structured our policies and have benefited our people, it's a chance for us to regionalize our policies in a way that probably the rest of SADC will adopt to. You will recall that previously you were also part of the parcel of the steering chairman of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. So this is another chance again for the regional Indaba to tap into the skills and the knowledge set of Zimbabwe.
So looking at the fact that the SADC Summit is being held right here in Zimbabwe, where His Excellency Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa is assuming chairmanship of the summit, where does that position us? I mean, looking at foreign direct investments, how best can we actually attract investments in Zimbabwe?
Well, I think it's a chance for us to be, as Zimbabwe, to be visible as a regional representative, as well as be able to engage other continental bodies at SADC level, which is the AU, the EU, the UN, and all other organizations that aid in confidence building for investments. Already the figures for investments are on a high, rather an increasing figures. So I think this will bolster and add further impetus for investments, especially now that we are now a SADC representative, which is a community of many countries in SADC, which actually play a leading role in international investments considerations.
Do you think that's going to position us better in terms of our internal issues, for instance, our debt overhang with our international lenders?
I think to some extent it helps in terms of our negotiations, because SADC is a community of nations that speaks with one voice. And the Zimbabwe debt issue has been quite an issue for some time with the highs and the lows. But now that we are now in a better regional negotiating capability, it positions us to negotiate better in terms of the support we may get from other members in the community, as well as the considerations by the international lenders, now that we can probably influence to some extent the SADC direction and SADC policies and procedures going forward.
So lastly, Mr. Gwadu, I would like to know, what is your message to the fellow youths of Zimbabwe? I mean, you represent the youth demographic as well. As we look forward to the upcoming SADC Summit, and we as a nation, we're a peace-loving nation, what is your message to the fellow youths and also to the business community of Zimbabwe that is going to be a part of the summit?
I think it's important for us to operate in unity and showcase as Zimbabweans as moving as one nation and being subscriptive to the SADC protocols, principles, and values. The youths are very important in the sense that we're the engine room of both Zimbabwe and SADC. So us showcasing our confidence in SADC, the summit, as well as subsequent activities beyond that, is actually very important in the novel initiative.
That brings us to an end of the second segment of this special edition of World of Business, where we're speaking to Mr. Marlon Gwadu, an economist who has given us his insight pertaining to how we can take advantage of the upcoming SADC Summit to exploit the available opportunities for us to position ourselves as a nation. Join us in the third segment, in the streets of Harare, where we get to speak to some youths pertaining to the upcoming SADC Summit. Stay tuned. Welcome to the third and final segment of this week's special edition of World of Business, where we took the liberty to visit the Central Business District, the heart of Harare, where we'll speak to several youths pertaining to the upcoming SADC Summit and hear their sentiments. I would like to know, as a youth in Zimbabwe, what are your sentiments when it comes to the upcoming SADC Summit? What is your message to the fellow youths of Zimbabwe as you look forward to hosting the several heads of states in the region?
Chekutanga ndiri kunzwa kufara sebandiko revechidiki. Ini zita rangu ndonzi Spencer Machangara. Tiri kunyanyofara nekuda kwekuya SADC muno muZimbabwe ichitungamirwa nemukuru wedu wenyika baba vedu vaMnangagwa, nekufara nekuziva baba vedu kuti munhu anoita mabasa akanaka. Saka chigaro ichi chauya nguva yakanaka chaiyo kuti titungamirire seZimbabwe kuitira kuti SADC ione kunaka kwakaita baba vedu vaMnangagwa. Zvichatiratidza kuti iyo SADC ichachinja, ichava nedevelopment yakanaka, ichava nekubatana kwakanaka. Saka isusu sevechidiki ndiri kuvimbisa kubandiko revechidiki kuti ndatifarei, tafara kudaro tova nerunyararo mukati menyika yedu yeZimbabwe, tinochengetedza vaenzi vedu voenda vonoudza vamwe kunaka kwakaita Zimbabwe. Vasazoite sevamwe vaya vasingade kuona chakanaka chinenge chichiitwa muZimbabwe, vanokada kukonzeresa mhirizhonga. I know kuti kune dzimwe nyika dzisiri kuzvifarira, dzinenge dzichipinda kune vanhu kuti vakonzerese noise. Isusu vana vedu muZimbabwe vana vane runyararo, vasazofurirwe kuti program yo isafambe zvakaita zvakanaka. Tinoda kuvimbisa vagari vemuZimbabwe kuti sevechidiki tichava tine runyararo rakakodzera kuti vaenzi vagare vakasungunuka muZimbabwe.
Having the SADC Summit before us, and Zimbabwe is assuming chairmanship of this particular summit, what is it that you'd like to say pertaining to the female gender and also pertaining to the youth demographic before we even host this event?
Ndoda kutenda nyika dzese dziri kuuya tinodzigamuchira nemufaro. Ndokurudzira zvekare kumadzimai tese kubvira vechidiki kuenda kune madzimai echikuru. Pari kuuya vaenzi vedu munyika yedu ino yeZimbabwe vari kutishanyira tese. Ngative nemufaro, tivagamuchire nemufaro nekuti vari kuuya munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. Zvinhu zvinodadisa zvikuru kuti mutungamiriri wedu wenyika baba vaMnangagwa ndivo vari kukutwa, vari kugadzwa chigaro cheuchairman weSADC. Zvinhu zvinotifadza zvikuru semadzimai zvinhu zvakadaro. Saka isusu semadzimai tiri kutarisirawo kuti panogarwa pachagara vatungamiri venyika dzese dzemuSADC padare ravo guru ravachagara munyika yedu ine Zimbabwe vachatarisawo zvinoenderana maringe nemadzimai, kubvira madzimai echidiki tiri kukura tichitarisa zvekare madzimai edu ati kurei, tine nherera, tine chirikadzi nechembere vasina zvimwe zvavanokwanisawo kuita. Izvozvo ndiri kutarisirawo kuti zvinenge zvichigarirwawo pasi muchionawo kuti zvakamira sei, asi zvisinei ndiri kutenda zvakare kuna baba vaMunangagwa nekuti muno muZimbabwe madzimai akura vari kubatsirwa, nherera muno muZimbabwe vari kubatsira, chirikadzi muno muZimbabwe vari kubatsira. Zvinhu zvakawanda zvavari kuita, madevelopments ari muno muZimbabwe ari kutidadisa. Semadzimai tiri kunzwa kufara, tiri kufara zvisingaite and takatogadzirira.
Seen that over the years Zimbabwe has been heavily burdened by the sanctions that have been imposed on us for so many years.
Yes.
But despite all of these challenges, we have managed to keep our heads above the water. What's your comment with regards to the issue of sanctions as we look forward to the SADC Summit?
SemaZimbabweans, ndingangoti Zimbabwe yese as a whole, nyaya yemasanctions haisi kutifadza zvachose, iri kushungurudza. Semadzimai dambotaura hangu ndakamirira madzimai kuti semadzimai nyaya yekuti nyika yedu yakatemerwa zvirango zveupfumi haisi nyaya iri kutiitira zvakanaka. Asi dambudziko iri harizi dambudziko ratingapa kuhurumende yedu kwete. Tiri kutoripa kune vacho vakatipa masa vari kutitemera zvirango zveupfumi munyika medu. Isusu nehurumende yedu takanaka, takabatana ende tinowirirana. Tiri kuita chinhu chimwe chete. Saka ndaikumbirawo kuti pachagarwa dare guru reSADC muno munyika yeZimbabwe, pamuri kugara ipapo mukationerawo nyaya yemasanctions munyika medu, kuti masanctions ngaabviswe munyika yedu yeZimbabwe.
Prepares to host the 44th SADC Summit of Heads of States and Government. We've seen a lot of developmental projects that have been done so far by our government and the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructural Development. What do you have to say relating to these projects and the upcoming SADC Summit?
All right. Thank you. Inini ndonzi Takura Madzia. Ndinobva kuZumba kwaMurewa. Ndiri kuwitinisa kana kuti ndiri kuremekedza basa rikuitwa naPresident wedu waMunangagwa. Maroads aya kubva ini ndichikura kusvika pazera rangu iri, munew dispensation ndo mandatoona kugadzirwa kwemaroads. Infrastructure iri kuitwa muno muZimbabwe iri kuratidza kuti Zimbabwe iri kugadzira upenyu hwemangwana wechidiki. Inini mumazuva atararama mashoma aya ndiri kunzwa kufara kuti President waMunangagwa vapiwa simba, wapiwa ruremekedzo nekupiwa chair yeSADC kuti varambe vachitungamirira dzimwe nyika dzese. Siyanei neavo vari kuti Zimbabwe inyika isina runyararo, Zimbabwe inyika ine runyararo, inoita zvinhu zvayo yakabatana nedzimwe nyika. Chikonzero nenyaya yekuti muno muZimbabwe tinoremekedza unhu, ubuntu hwevanhu mukugarisana, mukuenzana nevamwe, mukutaura. Zvese zvatinoita tine rudo. Saka tinoremekedza kuti zvose zvaitwa naVaMunangagwa, kana mukatarisa maroads aya tikaenda paroundabout yembudzi unotarisa kuti aiwa vaMunangagwa munhu ari kuramba achifokasa nedevelopment yenyika. Infrastructure yenyika ineyi uri kuona pose pose pawafamba pari kuvakwa maservice station, pari kuvakwa zvikoro. vaMunangagwa vari kungokomishena madhemu pakasiyana siyana, mairrigation uri kungoona nyika ino yamuchechetere, rugare rwevanhu vatema runouya. Vamwe vakataura muchirungu vakati Rome was not built in a blue once in a blue moon, but Rome inoramba ichiwakwa murugare rwevanhu. Saka inini ndiri kuti vechidiki tabenefita zvakawanda nekuona vaMunangagwa vachitungamirira nyika ino. Munguva pfupi yavatungamirira nyika iyoyi taona nyika yeZimbabwe iri kubudirira nekuoma kwemasanctions akatemerwa Zimbabwe. Nyika yeZimbabwe iri mumatambudziko emasanctions, asi iri kuedza nepainogona kuramba ichimutsiridza ikonomi yayo through kuti iye zvinotava nemari yezigi yako yava kutenga. Mari yezigi imari yako kuratidza kuti Zimbabwe iri kubudirira pazvinhu zvayo kunyanyisa pazvicherwa zviri pasi pevhu apa. Nyika yeZimbabwe iri kuramba ichibudirira ichisimukira kudzamadza patiri nhasi. Vamunangagwa vayeuka nenyika dzese dzemusadhaki kuti vapiwe chidanho chekutungamirira sadhaki. Uyezve avo vanoti Zimbabwe haina runyararo, uyai kuZimbabwe. Zimbabwe haina mheremhere, Zimbabwe inyika ine runyararo, Zimbabwe inyika inoda munhu wose zvisinei nerudzi, zvisinei neganda, zvisinei nekwaunobva. Zimbabwe inyika yerugare. Uyai tishamwaridzane tive neukama hwakanaka tisimudzire Zimbabwe. Sezvamuri kutoona izvozvizvi, vechidiki vapinda mabasa mukugadzira kuri kuitwa marodhi. More than 2500 vana vechidiki vawana mabasa mukugadzirwa kwaitwa marodhi munguva pfupi iyoyi. Zvichireva kuti president vari kuramba vachiyeuka kuti vechidiki rambai muchisenza muchirarama muri Zimbabwe nemaoko enyu.
Ndoda kungokurudzira vechidiki kuti ngavangotorawo example iri kuitwa nemukuru wedu, vangoona vasiyane nezvemadrugs, vangotedzerawo magwara akanaka ari kungoitwa nemukuru wedu. Ndizvozvo tinotenda nezviri kuitwa nekucheneswa kuitwa marodzi nekugadzirwa kuita marodzi, mota dzavafambawo zvakanaka, takwanisa kungoenda kwatoda kuendawo zvakanaka.
Mutungamiri wedu wenyika comrades Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa nezvakanaka zvavari kutiitira the upcoming chairman weSADC wedu. Nangoti kuma youth ese ngatigamuchire vaenzi vedu vachabva kune dzimwe nyika, ngatisaisa mhirizhonga pamusoro pavo. Let us engage in Vision 2030 with our president. Ndiri kuona migwagwa yakawanda iri kugadzirwa, I'm happy about it. Ndiri kuona futi even kucommissionwa kwema-ambulance ari kupiwa, chikura tasingaoni ma-ambulance, asi nekuda kwedza second republic yavamunangagwa yaiswa. Ndiri kuona ma-ambulance ari kucommissionwa, vachicommissiona new parliament in Mount Abdane. Tiri kuona zvakawanda zvavari kuita munomu.
Encouraging collaboration and idea sharing amongst the young leaders of the region, we can harness their full potential when it comes to driving inclusive growth towards the SADC region. And that brings an end to this week's special edition of World of Business. Be sure to join us again on our next edition as we look forward to the upcoming SADC Summit. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.